Hello everyone, just a quick word from your friendly editor/husband. For all of you who listen to So I'm Watching This Show and own an Android device, do me a favor. Go to the Google Play Store and download the Podcast Republic app. It's a fantastic app that allows you to get all of your favorite podcasts directly on your Android devices. I use the app and love it. I can search for the podcasts I want to listen to, select them as favorites, and have them all just a click away. Make sure you set So I'm Watching the Show as a favorite so you don't miss any new episodes. Again, the app is Podcast Republic, available on your Android device. Thanks!
I figured we'd talk for a minute.
Yeah, that's fine.
Like we usually do, but then I was like, we're always like, I wish I was recording, or at least I am.
12 seconds later.
Yeah, definitely cut. The one time I'm like, we need to be recording this.
I was like, I feel like we're going to talk about your dead grandma and Andrew possibly having COVID. Do you really want this on tape?
Hello, everybody. I am Will.
And I'm Kristin.
And this is So I'm Watching This Show again, finally.
Oh my God.
This is our first episode back from our relaxing break where we got...
I mean...
we just had nothing but mental health and...
Yeah, nothing's been going on in the world. Nothing's been happening in our personal lives. It has been just complete smooth sailing for the month of June.
Really just refreshed and ready to take on the day.
In reality, we've never been more mentally exhausted.
Not at all hanging on by a thread.
By a single small thread.
Single strand. For the two of us, too. No.
Yeah, just we're on the same one.
Same thread. It's like in The Adventures of Baron Munchausen when they run out of rope when they're trying to climb off the moon. And so he just cuts the rope from the top to tie onto the bottom.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
We're at the point where we're knotting it onto the bottom.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We're on very shaky ground. I don't know if we can really emphasize that enough.
Yeah, so I was in Maryland for a funeral, and it was actually nice. I mean, it was nice having a reason to sort of get in and get out. And there was only 10. Well, actually, there ended up being 8 of us there.
Yeah.
A beautiful day.
That's nice.
The whole thing was actually very nice. And we had a little bit of time to do a couple things in the city. Did I say DC?
You said Maryland, but.
Okay, I was in Virginia. I was in DC. And we got a chance to go down to Black Lives Matter Plaza.
Oh, fun.
And really awesome. Everything is still just shut. It's like a ghost town. Like it is like a zombie. The like 5 blocks around or 10 blocks around the White House. Yeah. Like there's practically a dome over the White House. It's ridiculous. And the cops are just kind of shrugging. They're just sort of there like, I'm just trying to make some money. And and there were people at the plaza. And we took some pictures. It was like not a ton, but there was artists and some demonstrators. There was this beautiful, beautiful woman in, I don't know if there's any proper terminology, but she was in like a satin red, like robe gown. And she had one of the red head wraps and stuff. And she had gold, like chunky jewelry. And she was doing a photo shoot in front of the sign that said Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
And then she went down to the church and stuff. And it was stunning. And then there was a couple musicians and it was really, really interesting. Because like I said, it was like a religious site, but in the middle of this very functioning city.
Yeah,
and so it was kind of like I said, like crossing over into like a no man's land. There you go. That's exactly what it was like.
Interesting.
So I wonder how long it's going to be there and what's going to come of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So I'm very glad we got to see it. And we obviously got to take some pictures. And it was after the funeral. So we were all in our funeral clothes. And basically, Mom and Tammy and I were dressed nice. But you know how Andrew is. He goes like all out with his suit and tie and stuff. And so he just sort of looked like our security detail because he already looks like a cop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it was a little odd. But yeah, and I got to see Megan. I had lunch with Megan.
Fun.
We met at Nix of Clinton and then went down to the Outer Banks. And that was great, too. I got a kite. I got a dragon kite.
Cool.
It was fun, all things considered, you know. but it was my grandma. I don't remember who said that. I was very, very close to my grandma when I was younger, but it was a very long battle with dementia. So
yeah,
by the time she finally passed, we were mostly relieved. So
yeah, that was similar to how it went with my mom.
Mm-hmm. And we're a matriarchal family. We followed her line. So now everything has gone to Tammy. She's now like the head of the family. But yeah, so that was the end of my June. You don't have any news.
Yes, I do. I have so much news. We're finally moving.
Uh-huh.
Finally got a house. Everything's official.
And you got it.
We got it.
You got
We
Chester
definitely got it.
Carbonell house.
Yeah, it's definitely happening. It's definitely our house. So in like 10-ish days, we're going to be mostly done.
Mm-hmm.
Very exciting.
By the way, it's called Chester Carbonell House because the swimming pool has a little mosaic of an orange crabby, and I named him Chester Carbonell because, of course.
Yep, I've been just calling it Krabby House,
Oh,
but
well,
yeah.
We'll see.
Chester Carbonell. Chester Carbonell makes it sound like I'm living in like a Frank Lloyd Wright house. Like it makes it sound like a really famous architect. It's like really the most basic Florida house you can imagine.
I just think it sounds like a fun Calypso singing crab house.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. How about that? Calypso Crab House. No. Yeah. So we're really excited. And that is actually an excellent segue into the actual beginning of this episode. We have been talking and thinking about it. It just so happens that June was actually the ideal time for us to take a break because so much happened.
We did it on a whim. And it turns out
we really did do it on a whim. We were like, hey, how about taking June off? And in retrospect, if I had been able to eke out a couple more weeks, I might have insisted that we take July off because now I'm going to have to move my house in the middle of trying to do podcast stuff.
Well, we'll figure something out. This might not
be
the most consistent or reliable we've ever been these next couple of weeks.
but it'll be fine. But yeah, so we are revamping some stuff. We're gonna still be 2 days a week, Tuesdays and Fridays. And we're going to also start doing video, which is going to be exciting once we have our new little office all set up at the new house. Probably not till around August or so, but we will definitely get in there with some video coming up pretty soon.
And actually, if you want to get a head start on that, we have already started video. We have partnered with the app TVCO, and that is TVCO. And it is a social media interactive app for watching television. And we are currently going through and doing episodic recaps of Riverdale from the beginning. And our first 3 recaps of the first 3 episodes of season 1 are out. And then due to technical reasons, we had to jump to season 2. So our first, I think, 10 season 2 episodes are available, with the rest coming presently. But yeah, you can go to TVCO, you can download it, you can go to Riverdale or at So I'm Watching, and you can find our recaps there and watch us fatly talk about Riverdale.
I mean, it's fine. It's fine. We look like human people
who are eating their feelings.
In a couple of them, we actually did eat our feelings. I don't know if those ones have gone out yet.
They have not gone up yet.
Is that season 1?
That is season 1.
Yeah, okay. So that'll be out at some point,
just
hopefully
the
soon.
French fries out of my mouth.
You just were eating them the whole time. But yeah, so we're doing a bunch of fun stuff coming up soon. And we're also, for anybody who is a patron, we are revamping the Patreon. That has taken a little more time to kind of figure out what we're trying to do. But
if you're a patron, we love you. We need you. This is how we're able to do any of this.
Oh, yeah, 100%. 100%.
We're working on retooling it a little bit. So, yeah, if you've got 37 cents, throw it our way.
Yeah, just, watch that space. If you can donate for some, extra content, please do. If not, no pressure. You listen to us anyway. That's great. So yeah, but we're going to be revamping that soon as well. And then you'll watch the Twitter and the Patreon for any upcoming changes. But yeah, there's a lot going on. We're having sort of like a mid-year New Year's resolutions situation.
We need to add a link to the TVCO to the website, because so far I feel like the website is our most consistent hub where everything links out from it. So we need to see if we can do that
for sure.
But yeah, so was there anything else that you...
No, we just, we had those couple bits of news and they are exciting for the future of the podcast. So I just wanted to throw them out there.
Cool.
Yeah.
So on today's episode, we're going to attempt to return to form a little bit and talk about something a little bit topical, but God willing, not too topical.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
We're going to talk about the movie Independence Day.
A historic and unprecedented event has occurred. The question of whether or not we are alone in the universe has been answered.
This is so cool.
More ships have just arrived over India, England, and Germany.
I really don't think they flew 90 billion light years to come down here and start a fight.
We gotta stop them! They're gonna kill us all!
They're using our own satellites against us. The clock is ticking.
Oh, you can't hit nothing!
Should we win the day, the 4th of July will no longer be known as an American holiday, but as the day when the world declared in one voice, we will not go quietly into the night, we will not vanish without a fight, we're going to live on, we're going to survive. Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.
That's what I call a close encounter.
So, for this episode back, you were very certain that you wanted to be back in time for July 4th, and you were very certain that you wanted to do Independence Day.
Yeah, I mean, very certain feels like you read something into my attitude about it that I didn't entirely intend.
I read into it in that it was on your face, that it was right there in plain black and white.
Well, I mean...
You were like, okay, cool, we're going to take a break and we'll be back and we'll do Independence Day, right? And I was like, sure, we can talk. And you were like, okay. And it was on Twitter. It was struck into stone. And I was like, cool, all right. No, it was fine.
It's like a good first thing back.
I was just kind of like... Ugh. Because I have never really liked this movie. And I was like, whatever, it'll be fine. I'll figure it out. Like, we'll work through it. And I guess probably not unlike how I read into your attitude, you were maybe able to read into some of my attitude, where we got to a point where we were just both sort of like, all right, well, let's just get this over with. And it's only got to be 30 minutes, so let's dive in.
Let's just fucking do it, I guess.
And so we watched it. When it was over, you were like, cool, how much did you hate it? And I was like, oh, I have things to say. And you were kind of like, ugh. And I guess, long story short, to go ahead and come to the center of this, I loved this. I don't know what I was remembering. This movie is great.
It's so wild sometimes, the movies that I think are universally adored by everyone, and you just absolutely have no time for them.
Well,
and this is one of them.
There are a lot. And I think this is what it was. I think it was twofold. First of all, I think it was the universally adored part of it. I think at a certain point it felt insisted upon me in a way that I was like, ugh. And you have to remember that though we are a pop culture podcast, we are not critics. This is personal opinions, personal takes. And I'm a Wells for Boys kid. I only had so much tolerance and patience for the 90s action,
Sure.
Blah, blah, blah. I would much rather go watch fucking Warriors of Virtue or some nonsense, because Marley Shelton wears 3 different dresses.
Sure, of course.
So at a certain point, things did feel insisted upon me in a way that I very gaily just rejected. I was like, nope, not on my watch. And I also was 10 years old going into 11 when I saw this. And I have actually very vivid memories of seeing it in the theater. And I was at the right perfect age for it. However, it did scare me. So it just sort of was a thing that I was like, okay, cool. I did that. I've checked it off my list. Like, I'm ready to move on. And it is very culturally revered. And I think I just kind of was over it. And it is one of those kind of like Clueless, where it's like, though I had seen it, it's not one that I watched a ton.
Okay.
And then sitting back down to rewatch it, I was shocked at how much of it was actually imprinted on my brain.
Yeah. It's a little wild, to be honest.
So did you have anything that you wanted to say starting out with it, or why? Was it just because Independence Day, so you just thought no brainer? Or
yeah, I think this is the first year since we've been doing the podcast that actually 4th of July falls on like
it's
the
a
right
Saturday.
Day.
So this is coming out.
Well,
the
no,
3rd.
I know, but it's coming out the day before. It's coming out on the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was the first time that it's like in the right spot. And I just was like, what's a kind of low stakes thing that we can come back from our break with? And this is what I thought of.
Well, my first note actually says, is this a perfect movie?
I would say yes. I believe yes, it is.
I was just really sort of taken aback by how good the movie is. It is a little long. It doesn't need to be 2.5 hours long.
I agree. I completely agree with you because I sat down to watch it and I was at a certain point and I paused it to get up to go to the bathroom or grab a drink or something. And I was like, Jesus, I still have an hour of this movie left. And I was like, what even still happens?
Yeah.
I like couldn't remember what still happened.
But having said that, I was surprised at how engaged I was. Like that first hour clips by.
Oh yeah, it moves along at quite a clip. It's not shy about being fast paced.
This also might be, in my opinion, the perfect 90s movie. I can't think of a single other movie that so perfectly encapsulates and expresses its particular point in time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it is the combination of like action movie, sci-fi movie, family movie, and it is one of my favorite tropes in storytelling. It is an ensemble. It was a bigger ensemble than I remembered, you know?
Yeah.
And we do have our characters, you know, that are red shirts that we lose early on. We have our halfway sort of like heroes, or the bulk of the movie. And then we have like the heroes who come through at the end and stuff. And another thing that I thought was interesting is how the movie is sort of divided up, where it's like we have the older people, we have the kids, like, because I remember being 10 and being very invested in like the children and the dog. You know what I mean? It's like
oh, okay. I was like Randy Quaid's kids. I was like, they're in it for like 15 total minutes.
Yeah, but James Duvall.
Yeah.
With the undisputed, no one could or would ever disagree, perfect hair that's ever existed. He does
have very good hair.
The ideal haircut of any man. But no, it's fucking Andrew Keegan. I mean, where do you go wrong?
For like 1 second, trying to pressure a girl into having sex with him before the world ends. If there weren't a more perfect Andrew Keegan role in the universe, I don't know what it is.
Because I started to tweet the Tiffany Pollard Beyonce and just Andrew Keegan.
Andrew Keegan?
But I wasn't sure in this climate. Because I was like, doesn't he run a sex cult or something? I don't know.
I mean, he's a dirtbag. I don't know if he runs an actual sex cult.
Google it.
Oh, no.
So I pulled back from that one.
I withdraw my comment.
But no, I do remember, you know, as a kid, because the movie checks in with the kids several times. It's like the kids and the dog. And you got, you know, the like classy politicians, and then you got the working class heroes. And it is just sort of this like perfect little microcosm. Like there's something for everyone. And I mean, this is not a novel observation by any means. But do you remember the White House?
Oh, God.
Do you remember Decorum? The president ably played by Bill Paxton.
It's Bill Pullman, you fool!
And just those shots of like Bill Pullman on the phone talking to, what was her name? It's Marilyn, the first lady.
Mm-hmm.
Mary McDonnell. Is that her? Or no, that's
No, it's Mary McDonnell.
Okay.
Yeah.
And she's just so pretty, and she just has this perfect 90s quality where you're like, the first lady. You know what I mean? It's
She's wearing like a pantsuit the whole time, or a skirt suit the whole time. She's got that hair that's like a football helmet. It's amazing.
Because actually, my first note beyond this is the perfect movie. I just said, man, this movie, babes, wall to wall. Because when I was 10, they were old people. I didn't think much about it. Watching it now,
I don't know. This movie might be the most attractive I've ever found Jeff Goldblum.
It surprised me.
He's so sexy, especially when he's like he starts actually like drinking booze and then just like throwing trash on the floor because he thinks the aliens won't want the planet anymore.
It surprised me. I was like, man, because I mean, he gets a lot of like thunder from Jurassic Park, and rightfully so. But the hair's better in this one. I'm gonna take a bold stance for me.
No, I agree with you. He's supposed to be smarmy in Jurassic Park is part of the point, and he's just such like an affable good guy in this movie. And I think that's part of it. And I'm going to tell you right now, he is wearing the hell out of that plaid shirt and Dockers for this whole movie. It was working for me across the board.
And it's got that 90s where it's just like a size too big.
Yeah.
But then the belt, it's good. And, this was the other thing. It's the Will Smith of it all. I have an up and down relationship with the Smith clan.
Me too.
And right now I'm firmly pro.
Yes, same.
As I was rewatching it, I was like, okay, this is where superstar Will Smith came from, isn't it?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah. It was like this and Bad Boys and what's the other like huge one? Well, Men in Black.
Well, for me, it was
Wild Wild West.
Wild Wild West, Men in Black. It was like that. There was a run in the late 90s where he was in he was in the $20 Million Club. I mean... And it was like, this is his sweet spot. And I do think that he can manage drama. Like, The Pursuit of Happiness is excellent and his performance is spectacular. But then he kind of got really into doing drama and it was like too much.
I remember the Ali. He lost me with Ali.
Yeah, I don't care for that movie.
And beyond there. But... And of course, like I said, now I'm right back there. But there's just something about, and especially it's fascinating revisiting something from your childhood and then going back, like revisiting it as an adult, because it's like, obviously I remember it all, like I noticed it all. But being 35 watching this, I'm like, man, is he hot?
Yeah. Oh,
like,
yeah.
Him and Vivica A. Fox. There's just the scene where she's like in the desert running up to him in like those shorts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really is something. And that's actually, that does lead me because she is the exotic dancer in this. So I don't feel bad jumping right to objectifying. But there was something I noticed about this movie is it has this weird progressive thrum underneath it. Did you notice that?
Yeah, a little bit. It's very much how like, if only like one thing in this movie were true, we would be in a different spot right now.
Yeah, because I have a very vivid memory of the gay joke in this movie, and watching it again, I was like, oh, it's not a joke. It's not a gay panic joke.
When they think that Harry Connick Jr. is proposing to Will Smith?
Yeah, and the other soldier just kind of puts his hands up and just goes, don't, and walks away.
He's like, don't mind me. Yeah, and he just leaves. Yeah.
And
I think it's funny.
It is funny because it's not a gay panic joke because the other guy doesn't freak out and neither Harry Connick Jr. nor Will Smith freak out. They just continue along with their conversation. Yeah. There wasn't a big to do about like, no, wait, whoa, whoa, whoa. And watching it back, I was like, holy shit. Mm-hmm. That was wild to me.
For the time, for sure.
Well, even for now.
Even for now, unfortunately, yes,
just
even
like
for now.
Mistake, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That really surprised me. Like I said, I have a vivid memory of it because my personal story with this movie was I didn't really know about it. I mean, I was aware that it had come out because it was a big movie at the time. But I remember my mom telling us we were going to see it. And I actually didn't want to. I was scared. I was like, it's going to scare me. And she was like, I think it's an important movie for right now. She was like, it's a cultural thing. Everybody's talking about it. And I remember her telling me, she was like, I'll tell you, when to close your eyes. And so we went and saw it. And for the most part, like I said earlier, I was at the exact right age. But I do just have because I was 9 or 10, rather. I turned 11 3 weeks from here. And so that means Andrew was 7. And he had no problem. He was fine with it all the way through.
Yeah,
I was more sensitive.
Checks.
But I remember my mom and grandma talking in the lobby before the movie about how there was like a teenager who was on the news who had seen it like 5 times already. He just like kept going back in. It was that good. And I remember when they cut to the scene with Vivica A. Fox in the strip club, I remember my mom being like, no wonder he kept coming back to this movie and stuff. And so
that's also just like the gentlest sexuality that you can hope to God your sons are going to watch Vivica A. Fox fully clothed in more than what a bathing suit
There were
covers.
so many ruffles. Like, she was practically a saloon girl.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what I mean, where I was like, it was so graspable. Like, it was so perfect. Because even back to Progressive, there's even that scene with the First Lady where they're talking and the First Lady's like, what do you do? And she's like, I'm a dancer. And Marilyn is like, oh, ballet.
Yeah. And it's like, I do beg your pardon, but nobody with boobs as big as Vivica A. Fox is going to be an adult ballerina.
Well, for me, it was also the hair. Like, the big showgirl hair. But yeah, that's why I know the word exotic. Is because I got there, but it was like, okay, that's what exotic dancing means.
Gotcha.
And Marilyn, the First Lady, is immediately like, oh, I'm so sorry. And Jasmine's like, don't be. Like, it's good money. It blah, blah, blah. It pays for this and that. It's the strange, touching moment in the middle of a 90s action movie. Like, where do they get off?
Yeah, no, I agree.
So, speaking of babes, we did forget. I mean, we said Harry Connick Jr., but
oh my God, Harry Connick Jr.
He's a menace for all like 10 minutes of the movies, and I forgot that he died early on.
I know, me too. I forget every time I watch this movie, and I'm like, oh yeah, Harry Connick Jr., and then I'm like, fuck, Harry Connick Jr.
Because Harvey Fierstein and oh shit, what's her name? Tiffany.
Oh yeah, the redhead, Kirsten Warren.
Yeah, because she was on Saved by the Bell, the college years.
Oh, yeah, she was.
And I remember hating her because it wasn't the Saved by the Bell I was used to. And then seeing her in this movie, and there was something about it where, because this was such a big movie, I thought, oh, well, she must be a big deal in Hollywood. So I've always had that thing in the back of my mind.
That's hilarious.
I think it's a really good ensemble because I actually pulled up the Rotten Tomatoes to look, and they were like, it was like a 69, and it was like, you know, good, but it's too thin. The characters are too shallow, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I mean, I suppose they could be. We're not dealing with Deep Impact here. You know what I mean?
No, but that's also like the least of my concerns with this movie.
But I was like, I thought they did a good job. I was like, I think Tiffany's arc was exactly what it needed to be. And
arc?
Yeah.
I mean, okay. I'll allow it.
And that does bring me to another part that actually astonished me because I rented it. I wish I'd bought it because, like I said, it was great. But I rented it on Vudu, so it was like HD and all that stuff. And this movie looks so good. It's almost embarrassing. There's like 2 or 3 scenes where they were flying around the canyon where I was like, oh, that didn't look great. But the rest of it, like, everything looks so good. And it's like, with the destroying the cities, you can tell that it's, well, and especially because I know that it's models, I can identify its models.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look bad. Like, it's tangible in a way that CG mass destruction just isn't.
Yeah, 100%.
The shots of the clouds and the ships coming in and stuff, I was shocked. I was honestly shocked. It looks as good as it does. Where I never, especially at the time when the technology was developing, I never would have guessed that we would have hit some zenith in 96 and then
I know, right?
plummeted into the uncanny valley for like 12 years.
Yeah.
Just to come back to where we were in 96.
It's one of those things where I think everybody got the shiny toy and they were like, I need to play with the shiny toy. And it's my shiniest toy. And so I need to play with it the most. And now it's kind of the thing where you're like, you know what's actually so much more fun than the shiny toy is that old toy that we have over there that still works great, but
Ball
we've made shiny adjustments to it.
Yeah. Well, the major thing with CGI, my observation at least, is that it allowed for a more authentic movement. Because when you're dealing with like dinosaurs, you know, it's like when something is big, it's going to move differently than when it's small. And like when a building, you know, a 100-story building collapses, the physics of it are going to be different than when a 6-foot prop collapses. And so CGI allowed us to do some, like, you put a guy in a werewolf suit or whatever, and he's only going to have so much movement. His arms can only go so high or so low.
Plus, like, making a biped run like a quadruped.
Yeah.
Is never convincing.
So that's where the CGI was like my time to shine, is you could get those actual movements and stuff. But the issue is we weren't there with the texturing. We weren't there with the like
hair.
Yeah. And so everything just has this really glossy artificial sheen to it for years that we're only now starting to, or within the past, I'd say 7 years, starting to actually meet.
Yeah.
And you can tell it's like this is a movie that they made the decisions based on the technology they knew they had, where it's like 2 years from now, they're making decisions based on the fact that we'll figure it out when the time comes. And it's like, well, they figure something out, but
everybody got into a very we can fix it in post mentality. And it's like, you can't fix everything in post. Well, we have not talked about romantic lead Randy Quaid yet in this episode.
We have not talked about romantic lead Randy Quaid. For that to make sense, listen to our St. Patrick's Day episode.
Yeah.
You know, this is as good a use as there's ever been.
Yeah, I tend to agree. He just is like an old, drunk Vietnam vet who crop dusts and was once probed by aliens.
Is it Vietnam? I thought it was like the Gulf War or something.
No, because this takes place like when the Gulf War was like barely over, yeah.
I remember being like 10 and kind of being suspicious of this plot, and extra so now, where it's like they are in real time ridiculing him for thinking he's been abducted and probed by aliens whilst aliens are abducting and probing people around them. Do you know what I mean? It's very kind of like, okay, crazy. And it's like,
I would maybe dial back your skepticism a scotch.
Very Maurice in Beauty and the Beast, where it's kind of like
crazy old Maurice, and it's like, I mean,
remember in the live act, I'm like, she's wearing a ball gown. Where do you think she got that from? Like, do you remember? They're like, okay, and it's like, what are you?
There's a wealthy beast that used to be a prince up there. He gave me this gown, and it's
she's
like,
wielding a
whatever.
magic mirror, and it's just like, okay. So that, I mean, I guess I get the story purposes. Also, there's no reality where those children came from Randy Quaid.
No.
Okay, that has bothered me.
We don't see their mother, but it's just not. By all accounts, it doesn't add up.
I was about to be like, what was she, a rock? Like,
well, but based on the children, she was obviously a very striking Native American woman.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like,
but I don't believe that even the absolutely most beautiful Native American woman could mix with Randy Quaid's genetics and still turn out those very attractive kids.
Yeah, I don't know. Back to the perfect microcosm of a 90s movie, because there's just so many things in this. It's like 90s movie bingo, or like a checklist, because it's like the scene with the dog.
Right. I feel like Stefan, because it's like it's got Will Smith, it's got Bill Pullman, it's got Robert Loggia. Just like, it's got everything.
But the scene with the dog, it's like I remember being in the theater at 10 and being so scared, because there's the scene where she like dives into the broom closet of the like underpass.
It's
and
fine.
She's like, Boomer! And he like turns and looks. It's a golden retriever, a fucking horse. And he turns and looks, and then he's like jumping on the rooftops of cars.
It checks out. The physics of that scene
massive fireball
totally check out.
Is bearing down on him. I was laughing so hard.
And he has not even like one singed tail hair.
There's just a shot of him like slow motion diving into the closet while the fireball's like whoosh. I was laughing so hard watching it this most recent time.
Yeah.
Like I said, as a kid, I remember being like chewing my fingernails. But
yeah. Oh my God, is the dog gonna make it?
Yeah, very, very funny, very needed. I also love that the movie does wait literally until the hour mark to show you the unalien. Which, I mean, that does actually bring me to the scariest scene that has ever been committed to celluloid.
Yep.
The scariest scene in any movie ever.
I know exactly which one you're talking about. It's terrifying. And it's not even really that it's like scary, but it's dreadful.
It's was scary. The autopsy scene, with Dr. Oaken, I was like, I love that the movie itself was making fun of him, because when he showed up, I was like, LOL. Like, who let this Muppet wander onto?
Like, there's literally no way.
Yeah, I remember that scene coming on. I remember my mom being like, close your eyes, close your eyes. And I just remember hearing the audio, which is somehow worse.
Yeah.
The audio, like, I think I would have been fine to just watch it, because they're just kind of like, but the having to imagine what Release Me looked like.
Not having the visual to go along with it, your imagination went wild. I get it.
It's so terrifying. So terrifying. Fucking Adam Baldwin's also there.
There's a lot of problematic men in this movie. It turns out, in the year 2020.
I just wrote, I was like, when the president fired the Secretary of Defense, that was like the epitome of BDE for 10-year-old me. I remember just being like, shit. Like,
oh God, I love it so much.
Oh yeah, the problematic men and problematic stuff. I love at the end once they've defeated the aliens, because they do. We're not actually recapping this movie.
No. Everybody's seen this, but it's 24 years old. You're fine.
It's also War of the Worlds, but
well,
when they're showing the montage of like the world. Mm-hmm. Well, because for starters, I like that the British were just sitting around waiting for us to show up. I mean, that is our reputation. You know what I mean?
I will say, if I had to guess, I think Roland Emmerich not. Yeah, okay, he's German, so he was in a World War II country. That is our reputation. I would be extremely surprised if that were not a joke on purpose.
I love the smell of Europe in the morning. Yeah. Because it's very like, the one soldier is like, sir, it's the Americans. And then the British general, who was also the judge in Best in Show, is like, about bloody time. What's the plan? It's just
I'm telling you, I would be extremely surprised if that was not on purpose.
But then we cut to like the different parts of the world when those ships are like being destroyed, and like we cut to Africa and it's like tribesmen with like discs in their mouth, and then we cut to like the Middle East and it's just all these men on camels and stuff, and I was like, Oy.
Yeah, it's not very indicative.
I was like, I'm starting to understand, because there's not cities in Africa.
Jesus, I mean,
did you even think about that? Like.
Yeah, I like going back and watching movies like that. I mean, especially like every Michael Bay world-ending movie, it's always like, like you said, men on camels wearing turbans, or like tribesmen in Africa, and it's like there are like metropolitan cities in Africa. It is not just desert. You've got to step up your game. Like there's things in Africa that are nicer than things in America.
Hindsight, you when you go back at some of this stuff, you're like, I'm starting to see where I got some of these ideas in my brain rattling around in the old noggin.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's a pretty standard plot. This is where the South Park joke comes from, because he says something about something being cold, and all of a sudden Harry Connick Jr. is like, cold, that's it, we'll get him sick. And it's like, huh? And so there's a running South Park bit, I think it's early on in like season 1 or 2, where they're trying to solve, is it the pink eye episode?
Oh, I don't know.
They're trying to solve something, and the like Jeff Goldblum character is just sort of like, butt sex. And Jeff is like, what? And he goes on this like whole, like, he links like word to word to word, and he gets to the answer, and Jeff is just like, who said anything about butt sex? Like, I think it's funny, but
I feel like this might be the first thing I certainly ever saw where it was like, if we kill the mothership, they'll all die.
Yeah. That
we got in the first Avengers movie that everybody hates. But I mean, I don't know. The science checks out for me.
Well, I mean, sure.
If they're all connected.
The thing for me is the whole, I don't believe that a more sophisticated species would be hostile. And they do a fair enough job explaining it away that it's like their world has been destroyed, so they need Because didn't he say they breathe oxygen and like...
Yeah. They're like remarkably similar at their base to us, but they're so much smarter and blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's interesting. I certainly don't believe the science in this as much as I believe it in Jurassic Park, but...
Oh, sure.
There's something about the way that, like, alternative or weird science was presented in the 90s that I am just a sucker for, and I just am like, no, we could totally have dinosaurs. Like, it's not even a question. And I just feel like something did me a disservice when I was in my formative years that I believe that stuff so intrinsically.
Well, they give you a preposterous conclusion and then 2 pieces of graspable evidence and then 1 piece of made up evidence.
Sure.
And you're like, 2 oxygen atoms and 1 hydrogen atom. I got it. Water, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I get that. But we actually didn't mention the greatest speech in all of movie history.
The Today We Fight for Our Independence.
Yeah. Which is
very good.
Weirdly hilarious to me that so many of like the dumbest, most patriotic people are so hard for that speech because it's like a globalist manifesto.
Yeah. But well, it's a globalist manifesto and it's also about defeating our alien overlords. So I don't know.
Basically, I was happy to once I revisited it, I was very happy that I did. I have reframed how I think about it. And there was like a sequel that like came and went a couple years ago, right?
Will said it was really bad.
Oh. Well,
it's like
still curious.
It's like the little boy, Vivica A. Fox's son. And then someone else, but they either didn't ask or they were really weird about it, but Mae Whitman did not come back as the president's daughter. Which I find rude.
Well, they just recast her with like someone more conventionally movie pretty, like that's what it...
I find it rude.
Yeah.
I said what I said. I love Mae Whitman. I think she's great. But yeah, I've always loved this movie since the first time I saw it, and I watch it relatively frequently. Not like every year on 4th of July, but often. Yeah, I love it. I'm so glad that you liked it when you watched it again, because I was anticipating us having another Armageddon / Day After Tomorrow discussion. Yeah,
well, I mean, this was a good movie, though. If you make them good movies, then I'll like them.
Wow. You just gotta do it, don't you?
It's true. Since when have you been afraid of truth?
You're ridiculous.
No, at this point now, those are the anomaly and not the rule. Because more often than not, I've ended up enjoying it.
That's true. We have evened out a little bit more.
We definitely, because the Day After Tomorrow one has still never been released. But
that's true.
It was a gamble in that I was like, I hated this movie with a passion when I saw it. Let's rewatch it. And you were very like, I can't wait for you to love it. And I rewatched it and I was like, nope. I stand by what I said.
Fun fact, same director.
I know. Yeah. It's sad to see the degradation.
You're ridiculous.
So
we should release that episode on the Patreon.
The Day After Tomorrow one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is it's not so much that I didn't like it. It's that it's just tense because we're also kind of refusing to fight because that's not fun. So it's just really stilted, pointed back and forths for like 24 minutes.
It's a lot of you being like, well, I just thought this part was stupid. And me being like, oh, I liked it.
Well, and I think I go harder because I'm like, I used to respect you as a person.
You did say that at one point.
But given this evidence, that is not possible.
I feel like that ship has sailed.
It's a bad movie.
You're a bad movie.
So, okay, well, we'll bail out there.
All right. As always, you can follow us on Twitter @SoI'mWatching or Instagram @SoI'mWatchingThisShow. You can also follow along with all our posts on our website, soimwatching.com, which links out to everything, including TVCO pretty quick. I will get Will to make that change as soon as possible. And then you can download that on your phone, wherever that is, and watch us talk about Riverdale. Super fun.
On your portable telephone?
Your portable telephone.
He says it like 4 times in this movie. I'm like...
Oh, brother. All right. Other than that, you can rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes or wherever you listen. And that's it for us.
Cool.
Bye.